It had been 2 months since the Vox were defeated at the Lapan homeworld. 2 months since humanity got angry enough to go to war with the Vox. 2 months since the video surfaced of humans screaming into the camera for assistance, fighting against bulbous behemoths hell-bent on taking the planets and its inhabitants. 2 months after the live video of the Lapan child being 2 months since the humans stopped waiting on the sidelines and showed their contempt for those that mess with their boats, their friends, their homes, and worst of all, they hurt the innocent. Though only 93% of the humanity's combined governments agreed to the fight, the decision was actually taken out of their hands as the world known as Hassar sent their entire fleet, along with a whole bunch of civilian volunteers, to the Lapan homeworld. The Vox were not expecting a confrontation from anyone else except the Lapan themselves. The Vox immediately declared that all human ships surrender to them, and as they put it, surrender to the superior species. The Hassar fleet showed absolutely no chill. Though outnumbered 40-1, the first shots had come from the humans. The massive coil guns, las guns, and the torpedo and missile swarm, along with all sorts of electronic warfare, proved devastatingly effective as it crashed into the Vox formation. There was also the first shot advantage, something that should never, ever be discounted. As the Vox realized the human fleet was not an invasion fleet, but an assault fleet, their leadership realized that they were actually outmaneuvered and outgunned at this point, being that they are actually pushed up against the planet. While recalling all the forces off the planet, the Vox received a message from the humans. The message was to return all the Lapan slaves immediately. In an act of defiance, the Vox did release the slaves, but into the vacuum of space, where the bodies thrashed around for minutes as their lungs slowly imploded, while one side of the body burned from no protection of the sun being hit directly with solar radiation, and the other side began to freeze solid, locking tight as they would actually snap and pop from the sudden freeze. Seeing this, the rage of humanity could no longer be contained. The Hassar fleet dove at the planet, boxing in the Vox fleet as they continued to run their weapons completely hot, glowing even as they continued to fire well past the time they should have stopped. Even the civilian ships drove at the flanks as they sped right into the mouth of hell. Weapons spun in every direction as the human fleet moved all the way to point blank range. Noticing the shuttles trying to breach the planet, every human corvette class turned towards the planet and immediately sent their thrusters on full, followed behind them by frigates that did not have a lot of anti-ship weapons, but they did carry something particularly nasty. The corvettes laid waste to the shuttles as they reached the stratosphere. With precision, they sent all the shuttles down to the surface in flames. As they did, the drop frigates turned and unloaded their troopers with the call, "Bring the rain!" Every corvette and shuttle followed them down to the surface to provide support. Any of the troopers that had any hesitation at all about slaughtering the Vox were immediately put to rest. The unfiltered slaughter of the men, women, and children was enough to have the order sent through all the comms, "Kill them all!" The Vox realized they could fight back, and did, if only out of desperation, though. A few decided, "Screw this," and ran for it. The Hassar fleet was actually far too preoccupied to chase down a few stragglers as they tried to take out the majority of the fleet still in front of them. In the end, 7% of the Vox fleet actually escaped. The rest, as it stands now, will slowly degrade in orbit until the twisted hulks of their ships are finally pulled down by the gravity well and fall back to the Lapan homeworld. The video is shown of this assault to the Council of Sentient Species, a meeting of spacefaring species in the galaxy. The Vox used this meeting to show how the humans had forced themselves into a war that was not theirs. The bulbous body of the Vox representative moved quickly around the chamber as she emphasized the point. She started screeching about humans did not obey the superior species that she is, and how the humans must pay in reparations and tribute. The Vox, though strong, was not foolish enough to fight multiple species, which is why they were there to plead their case. They knew that the humans had played nice to every species in the council, highlighting the fact that if the humans found a species appealing, they would locate to said species' planet and begin to mate with said species, claiming that, in essence, the Vox were performing the same act, simply faster. The human representatives sat silently as the Vox continued to rant for over an hour. Though silent, the hatred in their eyes was not hidden at all. Even the slag, one of the oldest spacefaring species, kind of shriveled away, shyly away from the humans as they sat next to him and could actually feel the vitriol building up and oozing out of the humans. When the Vox finally finished their insane rant, the human representative slowly stood up. He addressed the council by asking, "Is it finally my turn to speak?" The chancellor of the council raised his four-fingered hand and said, "Yes, it is. The council is interested in your decision on this matter." The human representative thanks the counselor before saying, "As we followed the rules of this council, we expect all the members to do the same." After this, he turned sharply towards the Vox and looked them in the eye before saying, "Which means, as I talk, sit down and shut up, you giant fucking mouth asshole." The Vox rep tried to say something, but the other Vox immediately stopped her. The human rep stood tall before addressing the council. "We, humanity and humans in general, we are the patchwork species, that is, one of the younger spacefaring species, understand that the Vox do not understand our actions. We have spread, or attempted to spread out, in an attempt to understand the cultures of other species. To this day, only two species have refused us this opportunity, the Fox and the Schlitz." With that, he motions towards a reptilian species that can adjust their outer biology. As shapeshifters, they do not trust even their own personnel, let alone other species, which is the reason why they don't allow humans, or anyone else for that matter, inside their space. With this, he continues, "After understanding the Schlitz culture, we limit our contact with them to simple trade. This has allowed a peace between us. The Vox, however, have rejected all of our attempts to understand them. In turn, they do not understand us. You see, our history is ripe with atrocities. Atrocities we have survived and learned from. As we reached into space, our patchwork of governments agreed that certain actions, unless by pure accident, will not be tolerated." He had to take a breath to calm himself before continuing, as his hands were beginning to shake. "First off, your insistence on tribute is nothing more than extortion. You can call it any name you desire, but that is what it is, extortion. To us humans, attacking our ships and demanding payment was put to rest centuries prior to achieving spaceflight. Entire navies have been created to destroy such practice and practitioners. In addition, we have specific rules of conflict that even the Schlitz agree with. Non-combatants, like children, the sick, the wounded, medical staff, and so on, are not to be directly engaged, nor are they to be used as shields. Not only is using living personnel as shields a true cowardly act, or as our soldiers put it, shows that you got no balls, we will still engage you through said shield, meaning that the shield is meaningless, and the loss of life at that point is even more so. We have footage of the Vox targeting medical facilities directly with their ships, slaughtering the sick, killing the staff. And when 3 humans showed up to stop them, your pathetic elite warriors held the bodies of women and children in front of them as shields. So much for your claim of no fear of other species. It was noted in your rambling as well that those 3 went on a rampage after that, killing all the Vox they encountered. And that included your elite warriors who actually ran away like little bitches. And when the long guns of those humans stopped functioning, they fought your people with knives, 45s, and broken bottles too. Why did they do this? Because all 3 of them were soldiers. From the culture of our soldiers, if you want to die quick, then you target Doc. However, that was not what sent the human fleet to the Lapin homeworld. At this point, he turns and motions, and one of the other humans plays a recording, a compilation of all the atrocities on the innocent women and children, a video that would make all reasonable personnel vomit before wanting nothing more than to kill those who did such atrocities. The representative continued with, "To us humans, there is little that is more precious than the innocent. Innocent civilians, innocent children, and the innocent that you tore into pieces, the innocent that you hunted down, the innocent that you forcefully violated, the innocent that you destroyed and reveled in it." As though on cue, the video of a young boy fighting back against the Vox that was holding him in his hand, striking at the Vox with a simple toy in his hand. The Vox simply looked at him and crushed him, exploding in a complete mess as though somebody had simply just popped a water balloon. Many of the council could not watch and turn their head, but the Vox did so with delight. It was clear that they derived pleasure from such things. It was impossible to hide as the female representative rubbed herself in her seat as she was getting antsy, and the reaction from the males was small but obvious. Still holding himself together, the human representative was beginning to shake in anger. Taking a breath, he calmed himself slightly before continuing. "It is beyond clear that your culture refused to see these acts as abhorrent. Even the insectoid Watcha find this to be wrong." He said this as motioning up to a slightly bulbous insect queen, although could be considered a princess with their culture, that had just vomited into a receptacle before returning herself back into sitting position. Considering they poison their food, liquefy the intestines, and then drink the contents, this reaction was almost unexpected, but welcome to hammer the point home. He continued with, "During your rant, you mentioned your intention to go to war with all of humanity if we refused your demands. I am here to tell you that we refuse your extortive demands. You will not have our resources. You will not have our boats. You will not have our planets. You will not have any of our territory. You will receive nothing from us." He again had to calm himself down for a moment, and also letting the Vox stir in anger at this act of defiance from a much younger race. He then continued, "We are here as a courtesy. Our customs dictate that we attempt to cease hostilities before they escalate, seeing that as an option that is no longer attainable. We have brought this." a set of document is sent over to the Vox via their own datapads. These are rules for conducting a war, rules that will limit the destruction, rules that will stop both sides from reaching total war. He then turned back towards the Chancellor and thanked the Chancellor for the ability to speak, and then calmly sat down. Before doing anything, the Vox looked over the documents, hastily but still looking over them, and began laughing in a strange, whimpering huff, which was a cross of hyperventilating and the sound of somebody letting loose a light fart. The Vox representative then stood up. "This must be what your humans think of as humor. We will have war. We will conduct it as we see fit. When it's over, your cities will be burned to the ground. Your territories and your planets, along with your resources, will be ours. Your weak and warriors will be slaughtered, and your desirables will be our slaves, our toys. In fact, I will assure that you and your spawn are toys for me to abuse. I will keep you alive to watch your pathetic fleet torn asunder, and we will hunt down each and every one of your species." The Vox representative actually was getting taller and taller as she spoke, so much so that she seemed to actually bend over towards the humans a little bit before she continued. "We already know you cannot stand against us. You bled your fleets dry to destroy a simple invasion group. All of your ships are damaged or destroyed and cannot withstand our might. With simple numbers, we will cover your territory like a flood in which there is no escape. This is what we will do to you, and we will enjoy every moment of it." The human representatives all stand in unison, all three of them, and simply stated, "Then let there be war. Before we begin, are you sure you do not want to sign that document first?" The Vox picked up the datapad, looked at it for just a moment, and then tossed the datapad on the ground right below her, then raising up one of her hands/feet and crushing it. Then she moved up as high as she could, raised herself, though that she looked very intimidating as she loomed over the humans. She began to get close, clearly trying to get within striking range. The human representative simply said, "Damn shame." The representative said this right before all three of them reached underneath their garments and drew pistols and then emptied entire magazines into the three Vox in front of them, all of them seeming to already know which target they were going to take down. Once they were done, with practiced precision, the humans reloaded their weapons as the Vox lay on the ground. Only one was still alive, as the main representative of the Vox sat there trying to breathe. While reloading, the human representative walked up to the wheezing Vox as 2 of her 4 lungs had been punctured. He looked down at her, and she looked up at him in fear and sheer hate. He simply said, "You should have signed it," then put 4 more bullets right through her skull. The chamber was totally stunned at this. No one was daring to move as security opened the doors and rushed in. The humans simply holstered their weapons and started reaching into their own booth and grabbing their cases. As the security held up their weapons, the humans just continued doing what they're doing. One of the representatives pulled out a communication device out of his case and simply said, "Sir, did you get all that?" The voice responded, "Roger. Operation Cry Havoc is a go." As they walked to the door, one of the humans actually turned to the security, tossed him a credit chip that was actually quite valuable, and stated, "Sorry about the mess," before just continuing to walk away. Before the humans even reached their shuttle pad, the representative of the Lapin ran up to them and asked if they could actually meet again. If they, what will the humans do? Will they be able to protect the Lapin home planet? One of the representatives placed his hand on the Lapin's shoulder and then said, "Those winged Hassars will watch over you, but until this war is over, you'll probably never see us again." that in fact would be the last time most species ever saw a human. Yet they would come to find out what a human means when they say total war. Hello, everybody. This is Syntax. Thank you so much for enjoying today's story. Before I go, I'd like to send out a couple of quick thank yous to a couple of my supporters. They would be Erica Gem and SS Demon. Thank you so much for supporting the channel. Everyone else, I'll see you on the next one. This is Syntax, punching out.